Hey everybody, it's Keith. Welcome to Wednesdays in Bed with Keith. Glad to see you again. Um, so this week I watched two films on Netflix, two different shows, and each one was about Jewish culture. And part of each was about the role mothers play in their sons' lives. And of course, I do talk about my mother a lot, as we know, and she has given me so much to talk about. I mean, that's just why. So I was wondering about the burning question in my brain. Which mother wins the award? Is it the Jewish mother or the Italian mother for like trying to marry off their kids and interfere with their lives and know better? And I actually came to the conclusion that they're actually like little Lego sets, and you can sort of mix them and match them, and you come up with the same thing on either side. Okay, so my mother had a lot of ideas about who her son should marry. I'm not going to get into that because both my sister-in-laws will just like come at me like, "What?" And I'm just kidding. And so my mother had great hope for my brother Randy that he would marry Caroline Kennedy. I'm going to give you a minute. Caroline Kennedy. Think about that. My brother Randy. So I said to her once, like, what makes you think? And how would he even meet Caroline Kennedy? And she was like, well, you never know. She said somebody could introduce him. She's like, and I have to tell you, she would be very lucky to have him. So I was like, don't you think maybe he would be the lucky one? Like, I'm just saying, Kennedy's proto, you know what I mean? Like, there's just a little. So, not that I'm downing my family. My family is like, whoop, way up here. So anyway, I said to her one day, well, what exactly would you and Jackie talk about? And she was like, you underestimate me. She said, I can find my way through anything. So I said, okay. I said, but like, I think unless Jackie, like on Sundays, fries eggplant, fries chicken cutlets, makes lasagna, has the family over for family dinner, I said, I think that would be kind of tricky, don't you? Oh, don't you worry, she said. We would work it out. And I was thinking, who would be the happy couple? Would it be my mother and Jackie, or would it be Randy and Caroline? And I think we know the answer to that question. So anyway, I, in high school, fell in love with this girl in my senior year. And I know that sounds crazy, but yes, it's true. And I'm not going to mention her name, but anyone who knows me well knows who it is. And my heart still to this day, a little piece of my heart belongs to her. I'm just going to say it's like, that's all there is to it. So I started, I introduced myself to her in biology class because she didn't want to dissect her pig. And I can't blame her because who the heck wants to dissect one of those little piglets? Like, it's the craziest little cute thing. It's all like, So anyway, and the thought of like slicing through it was just mind-boggling to me, except, I do cut through ham, but I think that's a little bit different. I'm just saying. So yes, I dissected her pig and we got to be, pretty close and very friendly. And I would drive her home sometimes. And toward the end of the year, probably the last week of school, we decided that my family would go to the Cape for like a week or maybe two, and her family owned a home up in the Cape, so she was there all summer. So I said, I was going to stop by if that was okay, visit her up there. So one day, my mom and I and my dad and my Aunt Mary, my Aunt Edna and my Uncle Andy were all staying in this house, and I told her that I was going to go. So she decides she's going to take a ride with me. So we're driving down. She's asking me all kinds of questions. And she's like, well, what does the father do? And I said, oh, they live in this town and he's a farmer and, blah, 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 blah. I didn't say he was a farmer. I said he has a farm and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, oh, she goes, how does he get away for the entire summer, stay up on the Cape? And I was like, well, he doesn't really get away. I said, he actually flies his plane up on the weekends. I said, and all of a sudden you could see like, bing, like this light goes on above her head. And she goes to me, plane? And I was like, yeah, he has a plane. I said, and he just, flies the family up and back, and he flies himself to and fro. And now she's like, oh. So we get to where they live, and, there's like gatehouse and gates. And the gatekeeper says to me, can I help you? And all of a sudden I noticed that he's got like this tank top. Well, it wasn't a tank top. It was sort of like one of those, like a ranger would wear, like one of those kind of shirts. And it was unbuttoned low, tan, sparkly hair, like, sun-streaked brown. And he was like, I said, oh yeah, I'm here to see so-and-so. And he's like, oh yeah, okay. And he tells us where to go. And as we're driving down these, sort of winding roads, we notice that the houses are like houses. Like they're not like the Cape Cod sort of house that we were staying in. They were like houses. So we get up to their house and it's this beautiful colonial. And the mom comes out and she greets us, and, so-and-so was at the swimming pool. And I made my way down to the swimming pool, and the moms talked a little bit, and then my mother came down, and it was time to come home. And so, we get in the car and she's like, lovely. She's just lovely. She goes, and I was like, yeah. And so we're driving out the gate and the guard waves to me and I wave to him and we take off. And my mother's like, I think you should marry her. And I'm like, Mom, I said, what are you talking about? I'm like a senior in high school. I just graduated. And she's like, still, I think you should talk to her. She goes, we can vacation on the Cape. We can fly the plane and we can do this and we can do that. And I was thinking, am I marrying her or are you marrying her? Or am I supposed to marry like the whole package so that you can benefit from the package? So we're driving back, and all the while back, all I'm thinking about is the gatekeeper. Like I can't get the guy out of my mind. And of course we know why. And, that just sort of like set the parameters of how far I was going to take this, wedding thing too. So we get back to the house and we're having a great time. And my aunt and uncle are there, as I said. And so I decide that I want to go to P-Town. And I'd never been to P-Town. And, it was like sort of like rite of passage. So I tell them, that night I'm going to be like going to P-Town. And my mother looks at me and she's like, what? And I said, I'm going to P-Town. And she's like, Edna, come on, we're going to P-Town. And my father's like, Eve, let him go. And she's like, Henry, if you don't know what happens up there, I'm just not going to be the one to tell you. She goes, but I am not letting that boy go to P-Town. He's only 17 years old. So we get in the car and I'm like so bummed out. So we're driving up and they're chit-chatting. And my mind is like, how am I going to get rid of these two ladies? Like, should I dump them in the dunes or should I just and keep on going? So we get there. And I said to my mother, you have to promise me that you are going to go in that direction. I'm going to go in this direction. And we'll meet back in like an hour. And she was like, okay, that's fine. So I head off and now my mind is like blown because this was like the late 1970s and, P-Town was like this really bohemian place and there was like sex and debauchery and drugs and, anything that you wanted. Like all the things that you need in life were like in P-Town at that moment in time. And so I'm walking around and I had this crazy like beating heart and excitement. And yet I was so comfortable. Like it was like this whole experience that I wanted and I needed. And all of a sudden I go into this one store and as I come out, I see these two women go like this. And I realize, oh my God, they followed me all the way. And I looked at her and I'm like, Mom. And she's like, what? And I said, you followed me. And she's like, well, there's more to do on this end of the town than there is on that end of the town. We were kind of bored. I said, no, you weren't bored. You were just afraid that I was going to be like handcuffed or shackled, held up, and put into a porn movie. And she's like, don't be ridiculous. You're so skinny you could slip out of shackles. She goes, but as for the porn movie, And I was like, oh my God, you don't even trust me. So she's like, a mother's job is to protect her child. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. So anyway, I get back to New Haven and, life goes on. And I'm out one night and I'm in a bar and I've never really done this, but I met somebody who I kind of liked. And we sort of, hooked up and connected and we decided to spend the night together. So we go to a hotel and, it is what it is. And it's just had to happen. And so we get to the hotel and we get to the room and, things start to sort of move a little bit. And I say, oh, wait a minute. And I go over to the telephone and I pick it up and I start dialing. And he's like, who are you calling? And I was like, oh, I have to call my mother. And he's like, what? And I said, oh, I have to call my mother. I said, because you see, I live with them. And if I don't tell her that I'm coming home, she's going to be really upset. So I'm like, hello, Mom. And he just like starts putting his clothes on. And he's like, dude, I'm out of here. And I was like, no. So I said, I'm not, and I hang up and I'm like, no, 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 wait. And anyway, needless to say, I never got another date with him, but that's okay. So I just don't know. Like, when my mother found out I was gay, she said to me, well, you've never been with a girl. And I was like, I have been with a girl. And she's like, no, you haven't. And I said, yes, I have. And then the first name that came to me was my best friend, Denise. So I'm like, I have had sex with Denise. And she's like, Denise? And I said, yes. She goes, that's not a woman. That's a girl. She's like, you need a woman. She goes, and as a matter of fact, she says, I think I'm going to hire you a prostitute. And I was like, you're going to what? She goes, I'm going to hire you a prostitute, somebody who can teach you how to do it. And I was like, Mom, what, are you crazy? And my father's like shaking his head and he's like, Eve, that's not going to help. He goes, he just doesn't want a woman. I was like, oh my God, this is craziness. Like, what mother offers to get you a prostitute, right? Like, isn't that a little bit over the top? So anyway, I started thinking about it and I was like, do the moms really want you to be happy because they want you to be happy? Or do they want you to be happy because by you being happy, it validates their happiness? And I was thinking that I think they want to like have their cake and eat it too. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, and I can say this because I truly miss my mother every single day, ever since she died. And, you sort of look at these things and you realize that people have these expectations and these moments where they want you to just, do the right thing. And it's okay. It's totally okay. I think that in the end, if you make them happy, and you don't have to really change your life to make them happy, I think you just have to be happy and let them come along and grow with you. And I think that the two are not mutually exclusive. So here's to mothers everywhere. And here's to those overprotective Jewish mothers and those overprotective Italian mothers. And long may they live, because they are a breed unto their own.